Figure it out.
I said that's my advice. He's free to
Fuck that.
take it
We
or
question
leave it.
everything.
He's in the wrong.
I concur.
Like
I
Portland, they'll figure it out then. Like you're
no,
trying to kind of equivocate, I don't think on purpose, like an event like an exchange running fractional reserve and stealing people's money with somebody who has done nothing of the sort being cut off from a service provider. They can find a new service provider. They can find a new way to structure the service. Like conventional SMS is a possibility. They could put up fucking kiosks in the middle of places that have internet access and people can go there in person. There are ways to solve these problems. But I think what's pissing Beautyon off here, and I completely understand it, is the equivocation of losing a service provider that's necessary with no ill intent on your part with an exchange that's actively scamming people. Like those are not anything alike.
Yeah,
okay.
I would jump in and I would say, Portland, like the nature of your questions, and I'm trying to listen, and I'm not trying to be even take sides here, but the nature of your questions seem to be you haven't invented something perfect for a world that's very imperfect, where people don't even have smartphones, where they don't have computers, where they don't have a lot of wealth, and you haven't invented something as perfect as what Satoshi created. Like it does come across as aggressive and in many senses unfair because and it's hard to not come back with what Beautyon saying is like, okay, well you do it then. Like he's doing what he can in the circumstances, and he's done something, and so it can't be perfect, and of course there's risks, and coming up with every conceivable risk and saying that you're doing us all a favor by asking the tough questions. I think that there's like you need to acknowledge it's not his issue that there may be telco providers who can cut him off there. And then what can people do? Well, the people don't have a node to self custody their coins, so there isn't a solution. And I'm not going to get into everything here, but I just think you there's a lot of truth here where you just have to say it's a different standard which you might judge some DeFi thing trying to get American investment dollars in false claims, whereas somebody else is just trying to facilitate Bitcoin transactions in a world where people have far different hardware and far less sophisticated hardware. That's all I'm trying to say, right?
Thank
Yeah.
you, Tomer.
Can I?
Thank you, Tomer, for saying that. I think you've encapsulated it perfectly. And, when people say things like what you just said, it gives me some hope that there are actually people out there who can think. So thank you so much for saying that. It's perfectly encapsulated.
And I mean, Portland, like there, it's not like these are unsolvable problems to keep chipping away at
They're not.
like what is possible in that area. Like just look at something like the Blockstream satellite feed. Like it's weird to our conception. Like people are gonna sit here and scream trust models, but it would be entirely possible for people to scrounge together and get a solar panel set up and a Raspberry Pi node set up and a dish and an LNB and put a node in the middle of a town or a village and have free access to the blockchain. And people would have a communal resource to actually go interact with the network directly in terms of validating shit. But like that is going to be a slow, weird evolutionary process where quite frankly you innovate to shit that most people in this room will never even consider in terms of solutions to those problems with those resource constraints, or you're irrelevant.
Uh-huh. Thank you very much, Brian. I think you also answered the question that was asked, right? Like, what happens if your service is shut down, or the service provider shuts me down? Just find another one. Just find another telecom. I tell people to access it via a different telecom, use a different medium, whatever. But I'd like to say something before I pass it back to Portland. Basically, the logo. I made this logo. And it is a Bitcoin B sign with an old telephone inside it. Right. So this is the approach that I'm taking with what I'm building out, right? Oh, and the outline B is like a phone booth as well. So basically, for me, I was asking a question like, how old is Bitcoin? More than a decade old, over 13, over 14. Right? But why haven't we started seeing adoption across the African continent, right? And one of the reasons is internet access is not that widespread across the continent. There's like 30% of the population has is access to the internet, and all of the apps and all of the services that one could use to access Bitcoin, to use Bitcoin, are internet based. They call Bitcoin the magic internet money, and for me, technically speaking, that is a barrier, right? So this project is an attempt to get rid of that barrier for the people who want to use Bitcoin, right? So even in Zim right now, they're experiencing hyperinflation. And I'm like, what could a person do to give the population of Zimbabwe as quickly as possible as well access to Bitcoin if they so ever choose to get it, right? And yeah, I could go and give out hardware wallets, but at some point you would run out of hardware wallets because they won't be able to make them quick enough to serve a population that's experiencing hyperinflation. And Zim isn't the only one. There's Turkey, there's Argentina, Lebanon, Sudan. It's a long list. Nigeria, I think, is part of the list as well now, right? So what are we going to do to get Bitcoin into the hands of people that need it, right? Because this is the season, or this is the time that Bitcoin should be taking a step forward in terms of being the currency of the world. And so, yeah, this is what the project is for Africa, because I was like, we have this telecoms infrastructure. It's also not perfect. It also has the same issues or similar issues to the internet. The only difference is that it serves way more people. I think close to like 80% of the African population can get access to a mobile cellular subscription. And that is why this project is how it is. And yeah.
Well, I got a question for you because, like, thank you for